2, 1. Round 1. Capture objective. Mercy on call.
There you have it. Talon rolling out on Old Faithful here. It's Jupiter who are looking to flex into the Pharaohs and Widowmakers of the world.
What you can get out of that is the fact that, okay, Jupiter have been paying attention to meta shifts so far. Amica, Hengi, look, this is two of their best heroes anyway, so they're very happy to jump on top of this. Talon, however, got to be playing something a little bit more old school for 2019 July. See how well they go with Mango on the Moira so far.
Well, Gagor is certainly doing just fine to begin with, getting the opening finish off onto Xur, and Jupiter not quite getting the pressure they need down. They finally start to land the shots on the backliners, sleep on Muse, but there's some counter pressure coming forward from Patapan, stops Hengi from finishing off those kills, and they're doing a good job of just not quite letting Jupiter get those free firing lines.
And honestly, this is a big test for Talon because we just saw Xavier fall prey where they couldn't quite deal with the pharmacy combo, and as saying that, Anakin gets himself a pick rather just as Mango Giant gets a coalescence available. Talon still have 5 members. What do they want to do here?
They do still need to answer it, because this is where Anakin is now unlocked, and that's the thing. Talon were doing a good job of limiting Jupiter's playmaking potential, but it feels like a stopgap, and this is where that's suddenly not enough. Kenmo Haro with a big EMP. They've all survived it, though, some only by the breadth of a hair, and Patapan has immediately started answering back, not just with the EMP, but also with the kill onto Anakin, and the follow-up kill onto Claire means no res. And in all that, Jupiter didn't quite snatch the point away, so Talon have still been ticking up percentages.
And this looks like it should be a much better fight for Jupiter, where they start on a 5v6, or rather 6v5 advantage for themselves. They then put in their own EMP. They do a whole bunch of things that look like it should be good, but Talon are able to survive against that, keep that point control under theirs, and Jupiter now making big swaps. And it's a little weird because you do like to see the Widow Pharmacy into Talon. However, based on the fact that hasn't been working, I don't know if this will work for Jupiter either.
Especially with Patapan still on the Sombra, that Sabagod committing a nano boost forward into Xur. It ends up being a 1-for-1, but I mean, Jupiter need better than that, right? They need to be at least not losing the first casualty. They want to be making the aggressive side of the trade, and now they're split into 2 halves. Gagora takes advantage of that back half, and that's going to be Jupiter just not even getting close to the point realistically in the course of this fight.
The other problem is because they reset so late in terms of changing compositions, they're not going to get ultimates in time. We're already at the 90% mark, last fight territory. Talon looking for a 100-0 here, and Jupiter going to walk in with 0 ults.
And Patapan's going to walk in with another EMP most likely, if we even get to that point, because aggressive coalescence, a death on Sabagod, the EMP is there, it's committed onto Xur. Hengi as well is caught by it. This may be a back cap from Kenmo Hororo, he'll get it briefly, so it technically won't be 100-0, but Talon have resoundingly won this fight, and they've realistically stayed in control of the point. I'll give it to them.
Talon now not going to have any troubles here, and I think it's very impactful, the fact that they can roll out on what is essentially a 3-2-1 here, Muse on the Winston. You have the Sombra there, you have Moira being played by Mango Jai, which is not really what you see a lot out of him. It's either the Ana or the Zenyatta. And for them to overpower the DPS of Jupiter, to say, hey, we might even be 1 member down here, the Pharmacy not getting as much work done, Jupiter not finding enough picks out of the Widow, not getting enough out of that, when realistically you look at it on paper, Jupiter, matchup-wise, look like they should have the better composition. They end up trying to match Talon, and I don't know if that's the right play that they should be making, because you don't really want to be matching Talon, because playing a goats versus goats, you're probably not going to win. Your real chance of beating Talon is to try and do something different and try and work around them rather than work through them.
And now Jupiter ending up again on the funkier end of that. They're going to be the ones rolling out on the goats. They've got the Winston in the mix, but it's Talon who are looking to roll out on the DPSs with the Pharah.
And I think this might be a wrong read from Jupiter, who expected potentially a goat start from Talon based on that's the fact that they rolled that out on Ruin. But Talon, you know, they've got a 900 IQ this one and say nope.
Oh, what a hook onto Hengi. It also alleviates some pressure from Muse. He will still go down, but it turns it into a trade rather than just a flat 1 kill and advantage. And again, the trade's still coming through. It's Gagora, but also Xur is going to go down in the mix. So Jupiter is starting to stagger, making those swaps. They have got control of the points here. This could be a way they stabilize.
This isn't where the fight will end, though, because DPS is still alive for Talon, means the damage output is still there, especially Bashful kneeling on the Rocket Barrage now. And this is where you start to see the numbers swing in their favor. They lose point control because they don't have tanks, but because they have damage, they can get kills.
Jupiter are really going to have to reinforce fast here with those changes they've made. Hengi's going to have to make his presence very much felt here. That's an early Transcendence from Sabagot as well. Seeing if they could push an advantage. They do actually find some wraparound here onto the side of Talon.
More justice.
Does answer a little bit of it back, but Jupiter is still doing pretty well in this fight. They're also still in control of the point.
And this is because there's been a decent number of trades going from Jupiter's in as well. So despite Talon now starting to pick up a decent amount from Bashful and also Patapan, Jupiter on the ground, especially with Hengi picking up his numbers, that's been pretty big, and they've maintained control of the point. Not going to see a 100-0 from Talon. Might not even see 100-0 from Jupiter either, depending on when Talon start picking things up.
Haven't seen anything out of Talon, unfortunately, and that's a 1-to-1 there, but that was with the nano boost committed onto Bashful, so Talon do have to get a little bit more done here if they still want this to end up favorable and, of course, get possession of the point. Self-destruct just slows things down, finds Gagora too. CQB might just have to commit a res to that, and Patapan gets picked off, and suddenly Talon don't really have much left to stand on.
This is going to be the first real reset for Talon. Otherwise, this has been one long, prolonged engagement so far. And I'm going to say, I think we've seen a lot out of Talon in terms of actually getting the kills. Just hasn't been able to translate that into actually capping the point because they haven't maintained that player advantage. Jupiter have managed to get equal trades in some cases, very high value trades in some cases, getting CQB down. Talon need to be able to find a much bigger number of player advantage to be able to actually get this cap.
Certainly Jupiter aren't going to go belly up, to say the least, and they've got some ultimates to lean on here as well. Can't say the same for Talon, having made those swaps, so we'll have to see how they navigate what is potentially the final fight here if they don't get kills, but that's a nice one to finish.
The ultimates.
Hengi with the help of a hack. It's one less ultimate on the board as well. Sabagot has still got a Transcendence that's still going to massively slow down Talon.
He's going to use it soon. Claire's hacked up and gets the sound barrier down anyway. They can still layer in the second ultimate. Sabagot does so.
Ooh, they find another pick though, and that's before anyone gets saved by the support ultimate. So both members who have died just before a support ulti's come through. Muse also critically stayed alive. Now has a primal rage, which he won't even need to use. Stars crossed indeed, and Jupiter losing their two supports. Talon will finally wrest control of this point off Jupiter.
And Talon now, okay, they know they can't wait to play a slow game. They can't wait to just have Patapan and Bashful get all the picks. They go for more of a 3-2-1 comp over here. Mango Giant lands a bunch of abilities. You can see that during that time, Kema Hororo was sleeping. Zer was hacked during the primal race, so couldn't get much done there either. Talon now have to work to hold on to this point because Gora is off the edge.
That's a decent one. EMP aggressively from Patapan, but he's caught by the self-destruct, and Ken Mohororo might have just single-handedly won them this final fight, and it indeed will be a final fight if Jupiter win it because they've got the 99% on the point. That's looking like Jupiter going to make this one interesting. Like I said, not just going to go belly up, looking to tie up Ilios here.
And I think Jupiter this time around is starting to prove, okay, we did roll out with a decent composition. Talon tried to make the DPSs work, but in some ways or another, it kind of worked, it kind of didn't work, and Talon paying the price this time around. Might just be time to reset your minds as we head into round 3.
We certainly still favor Talon moving forward, but losing that one stage there does keep things, like I said, keep things interesting, and we gave credit to Jupiter, and rightly so. They can still take a map off here. This isn't just going to be a walk in the park for Talon.
And I think the game plan was right from Talon in the fact that, okay, they had the Widowfire early on. It did a lot of damage. They lost tanks, which is unfortunate. If they had tanks alive, there wouldn't have been a very quick cap from Jupiter. And that very quick cap from Jupiter resulted in such a huge advantage in terms of objective percentage that Talon couldn't catch up. Later on in that round, they were forced to change off compositions because they couldn't wait around to find those picks any longer. If they had less time pressure to work with, they would have been able to maybe eventually get the Widowfire to work. But that's on the past now. Talon thinking, let's just stick onto this for now. 3-2-1, Patapan back on the Sombra. This has been working. Jupiter going to start on the same thing, and you're probably going to see both teams stay on the same composition. Only change that will happen is Zer will go Ryan.
And the thing is, Talon have won that mirror matchup. They've even won the slight asymmetrical matchup with Zer on the Winston before, so this is comfortable for them.
See what else happens as Patapan does get hacked up pretty early. That's not good news for Talon.
It's also an early pick onto Patapan, unfortunately, so even worse news, extra read all about it. Jupiter should get priority over the point here. Talon aren't just going to give it up without a fight, but Muse in a lot of trouble here. Likely to go down, indeed will be finished off, and Jupiter looking to get this early cap.
And I think Talon, okay, they make the call to go to the point early. They have the extra Ryan. Does make sense for them to do that. They want to take the point brawl. However, losing Patapan, going to the 5v6, Muse can't pick up the pace and maybe get a counter trait here. They don't have the extra Sombra for the padded damage. That's a bit of an issue. However, despite losing, Patapan's actually stayed relatively equal to Hengi, who's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, gets hacked himself now, but they aren't quite closing out this kill. There we go. Takes them a bit of time, but they get it done. And now Talon are looking to find more of the brawl on the point once again, this time with a numbers advantage and the EMP threat from Patapan. They actually capped the point here. Jupiter let that one go over.
Jupiter, they needed to find one more ultimate. Okay, they go with Transcendence. That would have been a decent tempo play, assuming they don't all get splashed with a Bio-Nade from Mango Giant. And that's the other factor that you have to start thinking of, is if Mango Giant starts landing some abilities as well, that's a big problem. There is a timing window that's great for Jupiter where they have the EMP versus Talon where there's no support ultimates. Talon have an EMP, but there's no defense.
There's the Transcendence against Patapan, and like you say, Talon don't have the same answer to Hengi, except just not dying. Jupiter didn't quite get a follow-up on Hengi, but in all fairness, Talon weren't able to do the same with Patapan's EMP thanks to Transcendence, and now the other ultimates coming more into play. That's a nice find onto Mango Giant. They don't quite finish off Xur in that Graviton Surge, the Primal Rage making him a little bit too healthy. They've still found a trade, and now an advantageous trade, 2-for-1 in favor of Talon, and again we see Jupiter starting to back out.
And this is where the math game gets interesting as well, because Kogora did have a grab, used the grab, but Claire didn't quite have the sound barrier. So yes, they could defend against the EMP. Talon also defended against the EMP as well, not quite.